It's possible to make mistakes, and it's necessary. We're all human and we learn from our mistakes, but there are mistakes that beginners make over and over again to the point where they no longer consider it a mistake and it becomes a habit. A mistake that has become a habit, that's bad. And this doesn't mean that I don't make these mistakes, I've been there too. That's why I collected for you some mistakes made by beginner filmmakers and how to get rid of them. My name is Arthur Weiner, this is the Movavi vlog, and so the first mistake. Almost all beginners shoot at 30 frames per second, or even worse, at 50 or 60, or worse, they switch on the HDR mode on their smartphones, not understanding why they need it. The default frame rate for iPhones is 30 FPS, and many cameras shoot at that rate too if you don't change anything at the factory settings. Beginners think that's how it's supposed to be and don't change the settings. They might think, so it's the more, the better, right? No. Set it to 24 or 25 frames per second by default. I'm shooting at 24 frames right now and not saying that it's more cinematic, but it's actually more realistic because it's proven that our eyes and our brain, respectively, perceive the world around us as about 24 frames per second. And now all gamers are like, whoa, slow down, the more FPS the better. And yes, it really is better in games because the video becomes smoother and so much more enjoyable to play, but when we shoot live video, we need to get live results as close to reality as possible. As a consequence, the number of frames per second is directly related to the shutter speed. If you have 24 frames per second, the shutter speed should be 1/50th. If you have 50 frames per second, 1/100th. If you have 100 frames per second, 1/200th. You get the pattern. Multiply the frames per second by 2 and you'll get the number you need to set the shutter speed to get the most correct and realistic results. But this can only be set at manual settings, and hence the second mistake, shooting on auto. Automatic is when you have no control over ISO, shutter speed, aperture, white balance, and exposure in general. That not only makes you an amateur because you don't know how your camera settings work, but you trust the software inside your camera how your image will look. There is no control over the image at all. If you are a filmmaker or want to become one, don't shoot on auto, learn how to use manual settings. And one of the main manual settings is ISO. How often beginners mess up here? I mean, the image is dark, they should make it brighter, they turn the ISO up too high, and it's kind of bright and good on the small display, but when they play it back on a big display, the question comes up, why is everything so grainy and low quality? This guy has the same camera and it's better. There is nothing wrong with the camera, you're just using too high ISO when you don't need to. If the image is too dark, the first thing you check is the aperture. Make sure you have the aperture open as wide as your lens allows. The smaller the f aperture value, the wider it's open and the brighter the image will be without the appearance of noise. Second, check the shutter speed. I said before that at 24 frames per second, your aperture should be 1/50th. If you have 1/100th or 1/200th, go back to 1/50th immediately, but not lower. And only the third step is to check the ISO. And if the image is still not bright enough, only then raise the ISO value. And going a bit ahead, every camera has its own base ISO, which is the value at which your camera will perform the best, dynamic range, amount of noise, and so on. For example, with Sony cameras, it's usually 640, but try Googling that information for your camera. But mistakes can happen not only on the filming stage, but also in editing. And the main thing here is to have all tools at hand with which you can correct any mistakes. That's where Movavi Unlimited comes in, which is, by the way, available on the Movavi secret sale. Movavi Unlimited is the unique annual plan that includes the best from Movavi in one intuitive platform. There are tools for video editing like Movavi Video Editor Plus itself, photo retouching, screen recording apps, and a set of utilities for work and study. With Movavi Unlimited, you will be able to prepare files for further editing, convert them into the desired format, enhance a low-quality picture by adding filters, and even create an eye-catching thumbnail in just a few clicks. On top of this, Movavi Unlimited gives you the 1-year access to all the effects that the Movavi Effects Store has to offer. Despite collecting so many tools in one place, Movavi Unlimited won't take you much time on learning. It doesn't require a top-of-the-line computer to run smoothly, and its annual subscription plan includes 10 programs and a huge collection of effects at the price of just one app. The 1-year subscription to Movavi Unlimited is now available at 85% off on the exclusive Movavi sale. The offer is time limited, so hit the link below to get to our secret page. And the next ISO-related mistake is making the exposure too high or too low in general. That is, you make the image too bright or too dark for no objective reason. In both cases, you lose detail in either shadows or highlights, and you won't be able to color grade the image well in post. Use a histogram in your camera or waveform, because you can't trust just your eyes when adjusting exposure on a small screen like that. If everything on the histogram goes to the left side, then the exposure is too low, and if it goes to the right side, it's too high. You need to be about in the middle. The fifth mistake is lighting, or more specifically, flat lighting, lack of depth. When you start out, you will work with the light you have: sun, lamps, floor lamps, but it's easy enough to shoot outside. If you have a sunny day, then place a person against the sunlight, which means the sun should always be behind you. That way the sun will create a nice backlight, and the front, take any large white piece of paper and place it at a 45-degree angle from the camera. That way you get a face lit on one side by a reflector and a beautiful backlight created by the sun. And yes, the person won't be blinking from direct sunlight. It's a little more complicated indoors. We have lights everywhere in our apartments that shine from the top down. And if you stand right under that light, you get a terrible result. Just like with the sun, make it so that this light is behind the speaker. And as a fill light, make sure there is contrast on the face. Don't put the person directly in front of the window. It will make the picture flat, with no depth. Instead, put the person at a slight angle in relation to the window. It's funny, in the last video we gave you this as advice, and now I'm calling it a mistake, but still, we always think about the angle and composition of the shot before we press the record button. And you can put the camera just below or just above eye level when shooting a person talking on camera, and that's a technical mistake. When you put the camera a little higher or a little lower, the proportions of the face are distorted either way. The person's eyes will either appear a little bigger or the chin will look bigger. To keep the original facial proportions, shoot at eye level. Going back to our last video, we advised putting the camera a little higher in your videos. Why? Because you are shooting yourself and you know your face and you know how you look best in the shot. Girls like their chins a bit narrower and their eyes a bit bigger. Or you just don't like your chin, put the camera a bit higher. If you want to make the chin visually a little bigger, put it a little bit lower. But this is rather an exception to the rule. If you're shooting someone or if you're not sure, keep the original proportions of the face and put the camera at eye level. If you want to stylize the shot, put the camera very low or very high. Then it won't look like a mistake, but a creative approach. Another popular mistake is to mix camera motion styles. As an example, imagine that you decided to shoot a calm, smooth video and started shooting with a tripod, with a slider, but then you realize that you're short on time. You freak out, take the camera off the tripod and record everything handheld because it's faster and easier. If you wanted to make a smooth, calm video and you had no reason to change your camera movement style, don't change it. Never do something easier and faster just because you're tired and you want to get home for dinner. That means you need to stop and finish another day. Hurrying won't make your video better. You'll just waste time, realize the footage is bad and reshoot it anyway. So stick to the idea, stick to the script, and stick to the plan. Of course, I want to bring out the grossest mistake beginners make is to record a good video with bad sound. Now the lighting is bad, the image is bad, but the sound is good. And now the picture is good, but the sound is bad. It's the camera's built-in mic. Your pretty image will not be appreciated by anyone if there is a bad sound. If you have no budget for a good microphone, at least record the sound on your smartphone's recorder. We recently had a video about sound, music, and sound design, so be sure to check it out here and another one here. Let me know in the comments what mistakes I forgot to note, what mistakes you made. I'm sure others will find it very helpful. Also, smash the like button if this video was helpful to you, and see you in the next one.